Hello, everybody, and welcome to the IFTA Screen Discussion series, putting focus on each of the feature films submitted for this year's IFTA Awards. Every week, we're putting the spotlight on a variety of diverse feature projects representing the best of Irish filmmaking. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by the filmmakers behind Aisha. Frank Berry, the writer and director, Tristan Lynch, producer, Colin Campbell, the editor, and Tamara Convoy, production designer. Thank you all so much for joining today. And I will start with you, Frank. This is the latest of your films, I guess, to highlight sort of issues in modern Irish society and put a spotlight on an issue. And it's one in the case of this film that's extremely topical, obviously. So when did you decide that direct provision was going to be the subject matter of your next film?
Well, it goes back a long way, actually. It started, I suppose, around 2014. I was researching our previous film, Michael Inside. So I was reading a lot about the prison system and the Irish penal system here, and I discovered at that point that the Irish immigration system and the Irish prison system were both run by the same government department, the Department of Justice. So I just started reading a lot at that point, and it just stayed at the forefront of my mind for a couple of years. And I don't really remember a moment where I thought this should be my next film. It just kind of became more and more apparent that it's something that I'd like to explore. And there was no one moment, it just led me there, really. So when I was in post-production on Michael Inside, I decided just to start the process and see whether, first of all, is there a story or is there a film here for me to tell that I should I be the person to tell it? And I just started the process. I met with Lucien Waugh-Daly, who is one of the co-founders of the Movement of Asylum Seekers Ireland. I just basically, that's what I do at the beginning. I kind of have this conviction to explore a subject, and then I position myself in a place where I think is the most responsible place, really, at the beginning, and I just explore and listen. And the meetings with Lucky at the beginning were just amazing. He was very, very open, and I used to meet him on a weekly basis. And the more he told me about the reality of people seeking international protection in Ireland, what it's like to live in direct provision, the more conviction I felt that, yeah, there's something here that we should put up on the screen, because I felt that I didn't know the reality, and I felt that a lot of people in Ireland also didn't know the reality of this system that exists in our name as Irish citizens. So I thought that's a good reason to make a film. That's a purposeful thing to do, is to put that up on the screen. But like my previous films, it's all about collaboration, and it's all about working with people who've had the lived experience, and to get as close to reality as we can. So Lucky introduced me to some more people, and I went on a journey for 4 years, making friends and listening to people, and a story started to emerge through collaboration, and that's how Aisha came to be.
Right. And do you look for particular things in those conversations? Like, do you look for specific stories about sort of incidents that people have had to deal with, or the more general picture of the system at large, or how much specificity is there in the events, I suppose, that you're looking for inspiration for?
Well, I don't ask questions, so I don't go in with any set idea about what I'm looking for. It's really just about spending time and listening. And time is the key factor, because once you establish friendships and relationships with people, then things, emerge, and, it's through conversation. So the key thing is about listening. But what happens is, over time, you hear things from people who don't know each other, and they're saying the same things. They have the same experiences. So I would, for example, the theme of waiting. and the theme of the pain of not knowing what next week will where you'll be next week, basically, and not knowing what your future is, compounded on top of the trauma that you're already carrying, you know. And I never ask direct questions like that. So, but just over time, over months and years, the story starts to emerge, and then I would you know, bring something that I've heard back into the room, and you know, and then we would discuss that more, and then it would develop and evolve. So it's kind of organic in that way. It's not forced in any way, you know, because I don't really want to impose anything on the story. I'd like the story to emerge, really, and then what comes out of that is what the theme that initially came out through the Mukisa program. I was in Waterford in the Mukisa program, amazing people working there, and amazing participants. I had a very strong bond with the participants there, and we were talking about their experiences and about, you know, things that I'd heard up to that point in my research. And then through that conversation, the theme of a human connection in an inhumane system emerged, because we just wanted to bring it back down to something very, very simple, you know, to actually ask the audience to relate to something human, you know, that we can all relate to. Is we, you know, like direct provision as an environment, there's when you're living in a place for a long period of time, community happens, friendships, sometimes people fall in love, sometimes people just mean something to each other, and the experiences of so many people living in direct provision doesn't really respect those basic human you know, needs that we all have and experiences that we all have, and you can be moved quite quickly, quite abruptly, and just the not knowing. So that's so I'm not looking for anything in particular to answer your question. It's more to place myself in the environment, and and then it starts to a picture starts to emerge as to what the film should be.
Mm-hmm. And I guess if the character of Aisha comes from all that work you've done, and from kind of a combination of conversations you've had with people who've experienced that, then Josh O'Connor's character, who's sort of our Irish central figure, who's this contract security worker, does he come from a more familiar place to you and people that you might have known when you were younger or still do today?
Yeah, again, I'm very suspicious when I try and when I have an idea that just seems to be not drawn from research or from my journey as a filmmaker. And because this film started while I was researching my previous film, Michael Inside, it made sense that the Connor character be inspired by the men that I met when researching that film, because I would talk about, you know, my previous work, and I talk about the experiences of people that I'd met, and it just naturally found its way into the conversations. And so we're like, well, okay, well, what if Connor is inspired by that part of my research, and then when I spoke to Josh O'Connor about Connor, the character, you know, he just responded very, very much to the people that I'd met, and how I would talk about them, you know, about people who have been affected by drugs, either taking drugs or working in the drug industry, but who have turned their lives around, and who are trying, you know, who are just trying really hard. And I just respected so many people I met while I was researching Michael Inside, and for that, and for their positivity, and for the fact that a lot of people who've been to prison have been victimized by poverty and by their circumstances. So so just those conversations with Josh, he really, I could tell he was really feeling it, and he felt the same conviction that we all had for the story. So, and then regarding Letitia, you know, what happens is I do all this research, and we create realism on the page, and we authenticate it, and we put pressure on it, and we workshop it, and I ask everybody who's been through the experience, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Always putting it under pressure. And so that's on the page, and that's what Letitia responded to. But then when we get to shooting it, I step out of the way, and then because there's so much more realism that I could never write that Letitia can bring to the film, and she, you know, blossomed really, and she brought oxygen and made into Aisha, and made Aisha a living, breathing character. So it was a combination of both. It was just the dogmatic research, but then also creating a space for a really talented actor to take that research and to make it even better and real.
Right. And I guess I'll open this up to you as well, Tristan, as the producer. Like when a film like this is being developed, does it make things easier to get it off the ground and get it financed when you have actors who are really internationally well known, like Letitia and Josh, attached to it?
Well, I mean, you've kind of got to go back to before you have the actors, because getting the actors is not so easy. So the reality of the situation is that for social realist cinema, it's very hard to finance it. I mean, that's just unfortunately the market at the moment doesn't really like drama. But there's a weird flip side to that, in that because it's so important, and because the themes and the issues that it's dealing with are so important, if you find the right talented person that's interested in the same area, they'd actually bend over backwards to do the film. And that was the amazing thing about this script. So what you're talking about is like a very tricky proposition in the first place to go and do. But then again, you know, and it's a lot of it is down to the authenticity of Frank's research and his writing of the script that communicated with the actors. To be honest with you, we went out to a few actors, and every single one of them responded positively to it. So it was an extraordinary experience. That was so while on the one hand you're going out saying, well, this mightn't be so interesting to the market on one level, but then to actually really talented creative artists who saw the material, it was really attractive to them. And so both Letitia and Josh, their connection with the project on a creative level from the very beginning, and after talking to Frank, was so, actually, to be honest, intense compared to a lot of other actors we've worked with on projects that, you know, where their commitment and their strength actually, with Frank's clear vision of what he wanted to do, made a really powerful cocktail that when we went to financiers, the thing actually became, it suddenly just grew into something much more than, you know, 100-page script. It turned into a whole proposition for people. And the combination of obviously the success of Letitia and Josh, plus their incredible acting abilities, the script, and Frank's commitment to actually realizing the film, turned like the stage of financing what was a tricky proposition into a really interesting proposition, because we were able to get, you know, really, you know, prestigious funders like BBC Films to come in and work with us on it. And when I say work on it, it's not just they're supplying finance, they're supplying so much expertise and creative experience, nurturing and guidance and whatever. So we got this amazing thing where we started to get finance, but we also got amazing collaborators as well with us on the journey. So I feel like there's no straight answer to your question. It's a whole combination of things that create a kind of almost like a creative overload onto something. And that's how on this film, the authenticity and the kind of the truth of what was behind it, I suppose in a way, it's almost like the closest to building something like a production, which is it's almost like it's got a sense of integrity. It's almost like having if you had strong religious belief or something, it's got, for everyone involved in the film had a sense of belief in what they were doing with the project, and that communicated to the financiers as well. So the short answer is it's really easy to finance.
And something you mentioned there is the authenticity of everything in Frank's research, and that comes across in the film. And in terms of like securing locations, I'm really interested in that. And like, you're kind of mapping this fictional narrative on top of a situation that's very much still happening in Dublin and around the country, and these centers are there and the offices are still functioning. So how difficult was it, I guess, to navigate with those stakeholders for either of the two of you in terms of kind of getting places to shoot and including different organizations in the film?
Well, first of all, it was very important to me that we film in a location that was once a direct provision center. So we just wanted to get as close to reality in every way that we can. I remember, Tamara, we spoke about that at the very beginning, and we spoke about the energy of that authenticity can bring to the film. And then there's a location in Athlone, a direct vision center in Athlone that's comprises of a series of trailers, and it's a very famous image for regarding direct provision. And it was very important to me that we represent that those living conditions realistically. So we went to a lot of effort to recreate that location, because we weren't allowed anywhere near the actual location. And then the final direct provision center is an emergency center, and it's a hotel, so it represents any number of emergency centers all around Ireland. But so we didn't actually go and we didn't engage with any managers of direction provision centers in relation to using their locations, because the first location is no longer a direct provision center. The second one is recreated based on a real one, and then the third center is a hotel, much like many other emergency centers around Ireland. Does that answer your question? I can't remember.
Yes,
actually.
it does. Yeah, well, I guess I'm also interested, was there any other sort of stakeholders that you had to liaise with? I mean, in terms of, like, you have obviously the guards are represented in the film and the Department of Justice, and were you in navigating with them at all in terms of how they were being shown, or were you just sort of finding kind of alternative ways to represent these things?
Well, the representation of the guards came through communication with the people who've been in those situations. So there's one scene in the film where it's a transfer scene, and that scene, those scenes, transfers and deportations, they have different. Obviously they're different. Some of them are very kind of quiet and orderly. Some of them get very emotional. And what we decided when we were researching the film was that we would do a scene whereby it started very kind of quietly like that, but obviously it's a very emotive scene. So it's a scene that begins that way, but then it becomes emotional at the end. So that was the way we kind of, and that was through the experience of listening to so many people who've been standing in hallways and listening and witnessing events like that. So that was, we talked a lot about, being being truthful and being fair and representing the experiences that people have had and have witnessed. Apart from that, we were just in conversation with groups like Massey and people who amazing organizations who are doing amazing work as activists in the movement to end direct provision. So that was very important to listen to those voices, in the development of the script.
Of course. I'd like to go over to Tamara regarding the accuracy of the locations. So I guess in terms of what you do as a production designer, Frank has talked there about recreating one center that was a very distinctive image in Athlone and other centers as well. So what point did you sort of enter amidst Frank's research and sort of get involved in trying to make those places feel real to life?
Well, I suppose Frank was really true. He really wanted everything to have that truthful feeling and that real reality, which made my job very interesting because it meant I had to be involved in the research and do a lot of research, which, because the theme is very close to my heart anyway, I really was excited to add as much authenticity to the project as I could. And the fact that we were, the very first location already was a provision centre in its day. So we just had to kind of bring it back to how it would have been and make it come alive again with people and, atmosphere. And I think the fact that the Athlone, we had a few conversations about the Athlone caravan park because it was very tricky. And Frank, in fairness to him, steadfast, and this is what he wanted, and how could we make it happen? And so yes, that was very challenging, the Athlone one, but we managed to pull it off. I think the end result in combining with the CGI was really superb. And then as Frank was saying about the hotel, the same type of thing. So I went to see quite a few undercover. I went to see quite a few of the hotels myself, just to get a feel for what they were like. And yeah, I mean, for me also, the authenticity of this whole project was really important. So the research that I put into it would have been, I put in about a few months of research into it personally, because like on talking to Frank, I mean, Frank is a wealth of knowledge, so that was amazing to have. But you also need to do your own research and also get, inspiration from places. So I had done some other research for another film I'd been working on, so it kind of crossed over.
I'll go to you, Colin, now, and I'm kind of interested in how your role as an editor sort of, works in terms of the tone of the film. There's some scenes that are so tense, even though it's just a few people in an office, but the stakes are so sort of life or death for Aisha that you have to create this very rapid tension and then get rid of it again. So kind of, I don't know, how do you look at raw footage and then create something there with this change of tone?
Well, a lot of it's just kind of inherent in the rushes that I get back from Frank. He kind of workshops the scenes so thoroughly with the actors on set, and they rehearse so much, and they work to get the scene down, that actually when I get it into my edit suite, a lot of the time you don't have to change that much, funny enough. Especially, I know the scene you're talking about when Aisha gets her letter that she's going to be moved the first time, and I just thought the two actors in that scene were just barreling off one another so well, and so had that strange kind of aggression between the two of them, that strange relationship that they have between them. You didn't really have to do all that much, to be honest with you, Lucien. We just kept. We actually ended up toning down some of the aggression in the thing. We didn't ever want it to reach into melodrama or anything like that. I think that's always a kind of a keystone of Frank's work as well, is that we always want to undercut that melodrama and make it feel real at all costs. There were other scenes that we had to do a lot more work to, but some of the stuff I found really interesting personally was the kind of documentary scenes that we inserted into the film with the four ladies who had been through direct provision. Again, those are scenes that you have to treat very, very differently in order just to try and make it feel seamless within the film. But yeah, that's my job's easy, Lucien. when it's that well rehearsed.
Great. And I think a question a lot of people who are familiar with Josh O'Connor's previous work and sort of how he speaks normally are kind of fascinated by how well he gets this Dublin accent nailed in the film. So I'm wondering, Frank, were you involved in coaching him, or where did that come from?
Yeah, well, that was it's first and foremost it's down to Josh's talent as an actor and his ability with accents. He worked with a dialect coach in the UK who he's worked with before, William Conacher. And then when he came to Ireland, I introduced him to Emmett Kerwin, the actor Emmett Kerwin and writer. Wonderful support, amazing dialect coach. And himself and Josh got to know each other and would send each other voice notes and things like that. So Josh got great support there from Emmett, who's absolutely amazing, and that's how it happened. And then he just was very committed Josh knew that the film was a very realist film, and it needed to be authentic, and he put pressure on himself to do that. And we just watched him disappear into Connor, really, and it's more than the accent. I think he just has he does a lot of primary research. He walked the streets of Dublin. I know it was lockdown, but he still walked around and spoke to people, and started to find the character. And he's just amazingly talented.
And something else about the tone that I was kind of mentioning to Colin there is just that you do introduce some optimism into the story, which is difficult because the circumstances depicted in it are so dark, and her situation is so difficult. But when she finds this friendship, this relationship with Josh's character, obviously there is a spark of hope there for her through that relationship. Was that always your intention from the start of writing the script, was to make sure there was something hopeful in there, and it wasn't just going to all be the dark side of things?
Well, when I start, I don't know what I don't really have an idea as to what the tone is or what it's going to be. I'm kind of an open book, really. I'm just listening at the beginning, and it's through meeting people and getting to know people and feeling the energy in the rooms I'm in. That these things start to come into focus, and again, as I was saying, it was through the Mukisa program and to working with various groups, and all the conversations over the years that I started to it started to come into focus more, and that central human relationship and what it could bring and what it could represent, set against the backdrop of an oppressive system, just became more and more important and more clear.
And when you were deciding how to end the film, was there ever an urge to make it like a very happy ending or a completely devastating one, rather than the sort of ambiguity that you've put in, which is obviously probably more reflective of the real life sort of, lived kind of every moment is uncertain life of some of the people experiencing this? But was the temptation there to be more cinematic, I suppose, or did you always want it to feel very realistic and ambiguous?
Well, I think realism is quite cinematic, and it's we wanted a big picture ending. And I think, it was never an option to have a happy ending, because I think that would betray the experiences of so many people currently living in direct provision and in that situation. So we looked at different ways of ending the film. There was different kind of order of events and things like that, but it was always a sense of unknown and waiting, because that's just basically the feeling. We wanted to leave the audience with the feeling, and waiting is the theme of the film in many ways, and I think I did so much reading before, and you learn a lot when you read, obviously, and you statistics, and you can be over swamped with statistics, but my feeling is about cinema is that if you can make an audience feel something, then they won't forget, because it goes to a different place, it's you feel it, and that's the feeling that's how we wanted the film to end, which is to leave the audience with a feeling, and for it to be just memorable and powerful.
Fantastic. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you all so much for coming and discussing the film with me. It's really wonderful, and it is in consideration at the 2023 IFTA Awards, along with a selection of other great Irish films. So thank you so much, guys, for joining today. And anyone who hasn't had a chance to see Aisha yet, I hope gets the chance to very soon. And best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.